I got us healthy stacks of nature boxes instead of that garbage you've been eating. Thank you.
What do we have? The healthy police telling us what we can eat now?
What even is this stuff?
Oh, look at me, I'm Jack. I want roasted brulee and corn kernels. Oh!
Sriracha pop pop, filling out, healthy.
I mean, why would I eat these delicious Asiago cheddar cheese crisps when I could go out and get an overly salted processed potato clump?
Right? I would prefer my regular chocolate candy bar to this mocha almond bar because of that sugar rush that I get and that deep crash that comes with it.
Yeah, I mean, forget these delicious guacamole bites, these amazing dark cocoa almonds, and here, take it.
Whoever wins in their mouth will bicker. I forgot. Start your free trial at naturebox.com/TYT. Well, it's a Monday, so it's a packed show. Okay, I've got 1,000 things to tell you about. Later in the program, Fox. Ted Cruz is not your guy, okay? Not interested in your goddamn rights. Now, the other thing he's doing is, of course, juxtaposing himself with some other people who are going to get into the race, like Rand Paul. So he says he's very hawkish on national security, which he is. Very pro-war, no question about that. And Rand Paul is not as much in favor of war, since he's a little bit more libertarian. So that's a good contrast between those two. Now, they explained that he scoped out an office space for a campaign headquarters in Houston, Texas, and terminated his Canadian citizenship in preparation. I can't help but be amused by that. Could you imagine if President Obama did likewise? Well, he got some campaign office in Chicago and terminated his Kenyan citizenship before he decided to run for the President of the United States. The rough reaction of conservatives everywhere would have been, they had that reaction anyway, and he didn't have Kenyan citizenship. So I love, hey, where's early Taibs, and all the other birthers, and Donald Trump talking about Ted Cruz was born in Canada. He renounced his Canadian citizenship a second ago before he decided to run for presidency of our country. I mean, look, I wouldn't want to wish that plague on the Canadians, our good friends north of the border. I'm not saying he should go over there, okay, or run for their leadership, but the guy wasn't born here. Look, you made a good case that he should be able to run since I wasn't born here and I'm a U.S. citizen. Not such a bad case to make, okay? But what happened to all the guys who were so obsessed about the long form? Where's the goddamn long form for here? Well, but his mom was American when he was born. So was Obama. Things that make you go, okay, all right. But I am actually going to compliment Cruz on one thing. As they explain in the post here, Cruz is the first high-profile candidate to officially declare that he's running for president and will forego an exploratory committee. Thanks, God. Okay. So, one, I'm complimenting him on being the first one, and everybody else is like, positioning for announcing and then re-announcing and partially announcing and then further announcing. He's like, yeah, I'm running for president. You know it, I know it, the American people know it, I might as well say it, right? And number two, the exploratory committee. What a crock. Which of these politicians go exploring? You're like, I formed an exploratory committee. I was exploring. Then I realized, no, I suck. No, I'm not going to run for president. No, they do the exploratory committee, and then they run for president. He's like, I'm skipping that step. And look, the man's a man of action. You don't like it? I don't like a lot. I think almost all of his actions. I can't name one thing I like about Ted Cruz. But he is bold. You got to give him that. I'm a new senator. Who cares? Move. Kick the door open and be like, screw your exploratory committees. I'm coming. So I appreciate that. I understand that, even though I'm not on the same side of the debate as he is. All right, now let's have a little bit of fun and tell you what he said, because this is where George Washington and the others come into play. It wouldn't be enough to compare yourself to George Washington. You'd have to throw FDR in. But that wouldn't quite do the job either. You can't run for president on the Republican side without also throwing in Reagan. So, Ted Cruz says he's fighting long odds, but he knows it. But some other great Americans were also fighting great odds. So he said in his statements about running for president, imagine it was 1777, and we were watching General Washington, and he lost battle after battle after battle in the freezing cold. The soldiers with no shoes were dying fighting for freedom against the most powerful army in the world. That too seemed unimaginable. Imagine it's 1933, and we're listening to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt tell America at a time of crushing depression that at a time of gathering storm abroad, we have nothing to fear but fear itself. Imagine it's 1979. You and I were listening to Ronald Reagan, and he was telling us that we would cut the top marginal tax rate from 70% all the way down to 28%. That we would go from crushing stagnation to booming economic growth, and millions are being lifted out of poverty and into prosperity at abundance. And then, of course, he turns around and goes, now imagine me winning. Like, you see, you get Washington Reagan and everything. Now, I know he's making an analogy, and I know he's saying, like, those things seem impossible, and now, don't give up. And there is some validity to that analogy, because I understand that most of his supporters do not wear shoes. They wear largely tinfoil hats. It's the main piece of clothing that they have. in other videos, we'll tell you about the crazy conspiracy theories that Ted Cruz believes in. But overall here, it is emblematic of how Ted Cruz views himself. Right? He views himself as this messianic character. His dad says that he is the chosen one, anointed to lead us all, and that he taught him that from a young age. For Cocoa Puffs, right? That's some dangerous stuff. So it's not surprising that he'd come out here and be like, imagine it's Nazareth, and instead of Jesus, that's what he's been imagining his whole life. So, of course, he's going boldly in that direction. He's going to run for president. I don't think he'll win, but I do think he will create a holy mess. I think that he will attack, including the other Republicans, in vicious ways. He will be super aggressive. He'll make it an interesting race. Before he leaves, he'll take a whole bunch of people with him. I mean, if this was a Royal Rumble, like in the old days of wrestling, I mean, he'd take out 3, 4, 5 guys. He'd eventually get thrown out by the rest of them. But a lot of people are going to be bleeding from the foreheads before he goes. Okay. Including him, I forgot that we had that picture. That's great. Anyway. All right. Hold on. I'm not anywhere near done with Ted Cruz yet. We're just getting warmed up. Let's go to some fun quotes. Okay. So Ted Cruz has said that he's going to run for president. Let's have fun. Let's tell you about some famous quotes of Ted Cruz to give you a sense of what this guy's all about. We start with a fun one, given that he's Canadian and, yes, also American. He's running for president of the United States. He boldly declared, quote, I will renounce any Canadian citizenship. Not just my Canadian citizenship. I'll renounce all of your sons of bitch Canadian citizenship. You're a Canadian? Fucking renounce you. I know he didn't quite mean it that way, but I enjoy the quote. I'll renounce any Canadian citizenship. You got no, go ahead. Renounce you. Fuck back into Canada. Okay, anyway. Then he said at one point, when he was doing his big filibuster, in non-filibuster filibuster in the Senate, I am a very, very proud wacko bird. Well, it's hard to disagree with that. He is very proud, and he is a wacko bird. He said, hey, standing for liberty and the Constitution makes me a wacko bird. Yeah, I know, dude, I know. You're the only defender of the Constitution. Oh, God, this guy's unbearable, right? So that's the context of that quote. Once he was going on and on about Obama's foreign policy and how disastrous it was, a young girl in the crowd says, Mr. Cruz, is the world on fire? He responds with, very clear, yes, your world is on fire. At which point the little girl started screaming and running out the building. Daddy, Senator Cruz said the world's on fire. Okay, no, I'm pretty sure she's okay. He was talking about how a chaplain had said in the Army that there are no atheists in the foxhole. It's a famous quote. And the Army asked him, hey, don't say that, because there actually are atheists in the foxholes. They're serving right next to people who are Christian, Jewish, etc. They're American soldiers, and they go and lay their lives on the line for the United States military and for the defense of this country. So can you not insult the atheists that are also our brothers and fighting with us, right? And in the foxhole next to us? And so the chaplain said, oh, okay, I got you. But Ted Cruz was very upset about that. And he said, I kind of thought it was the job of a chaplain to be insensitive to atheists. Now, look, dude, no, the job of a chaplain is to go and preach, Christianity's awesome, whatever. Like, if you're the military chaplain and you see somebody who's an atheist, you're not supposed to go and spit in his eye. You're all part of the same military. Remember the Army of One? But that goes to Ted Cruz's ideology, which is, if I believe this, it is my job to make sure you don't believe the opposite, and I'll punch you in the face if you do. Okay? So, Now, on to more substantive stuff, and then I'll get to a couple of fun, wacky ones at the end again. In the middle of shutting down the government, everybody said, "What you doing the thing? You shut down the whole thing, and it's because you were obstinate, etc." He said, "No, I have a good counter to that. Quote, I didn't threaten to shut down the government." Oh, okay, if you say so. Okay. So speaking of twisting the truth to the exact opposite of what it is, on the issue of net neutrality, he said, net neutrality is Obamacare for the internet. The internet should not operate at the speed of government. Now, that doesn't make any sense. Net neutrality actually protects the internet exactly as it is today. There is no speed of government dial. They're like, Obama's like, watch this, dude. Boom, speed of government now. And the internet's like, no, I'm slowing down. What a crock of shit. He wants to destroy the internet. He wants to allow the companies that donate to his campaigns to have faster speed, and for the rest of us to have slower speed. So he turns the thing on its head and goes, no, net neutrality means you actually do discriminate, and it's Obamacare for the internet. I don't know what that means, but it sounds really bad. Plus, it's also the Benghazi of the internet. Solyndra. Okay. Now we get on to the fun quotes. When talking about panhandlers, he said, in my life, I have never once seen an Hispanic panhandler. In our community, it would be viewed as shameful to be out on the street begging. No, it's true. It's true. They did a study about this later, and scientists concluded, he's right, there's never been a Hispanic panhandler. Not even in the panhandle. They looked all through the Florida panhandle, they're like, not one Latino here. No. Who says things like that? But, I mean, first of all, it's kind of racist. Like, oh, panhandling, it's for white folks and black folks. And you know he doesn't mean white anyway. You know where he's going with that, right? So, but Latinos, we are too proud and great. Look, I got love for Latinos. I'm pretty sure there's some Latino panhandlers in the country. Okay. Who says something that outrageous and stupid? All right, anyway, he thinks he's brilliant. He loved to debate in college. Oh, yes, well, golly gee, cats are better than dogs. Yeah, I love those debating clubs. Anyway, finally, he said about Iraq, it's not our job to be social workers in Iraq and put them all on expanded Medicaid. It is our job to kill terrorists who have declared war on America and who have demonstrated the intention and capability to murder and murder innocent Americans. Okay. See, once again, I like this because it's both absurd and substantive. See, the excuse for the Iraq War in the beginning was, we're going to liberate from evil Saddam Hussein. Now, we're doing it because they have weapons of mass destruction, they're connected to 9/11. Now, all those were lies. They were not connected to 9/11, and it turned out they didn't even have weapons of mass destruction. But it's okay, we were told over and over by the Bush administration, because we went to liberate Iraq because of the, what he called, the freedom agenda. Now, Ted Cruz is like, freedom? For Iraqis? No. We went to kill them there, okay? There's a lot of terrorists there. Actually, there weren't almost any terrorists when we went in, right? And, well, we went in, now we got all these terrorists, and I said, we go there, our job, kill them. That's our job, kill them. Expanded Medicaid. What happened? I thought we were going to reconstruct Iraq. And then once we reconstructed it, it was going to be a blooming democracy that was going to be a shining example to the rest of the Middle East. He's like, Medicaid. I'm not giving him any. The only thing I'm giving him is bullets. Hey, Iraq, why don't you greet me as a liberator? So, in those absurd quotes, you have Ted Cruz's ideology very clearly explained. He's the boss. He knows everything. The truth is the exact opposite of his reality. And the answer is bullets and lack of empathy. Ted Cruz in a nutshell. Okay. Now, I'm not done with Ted Cruz yet. Don't go anywhere. We're getting to the most fun part. Okay. Okay, this is too much fun. Alright. Ted Cruz is running for president, so let's have fun and talk about his wackiest conspiracy theories. So, we've told you about Agenda 21 before. He believes it's the United Nations agenda. It's mainly led by George Soros. We'll get to that in a second. And it does many terrible things, include force all of us into Hobbit Home. That's from his website, Hobbit Home. So we will all be living in shires soon. Which actually doesn't sound that bad. The shires look lovely in the movies, don't they? Anyway, the houses are a little too small. So, how does he explain all this? Well, the general category here is, this is awesome. George Soros leads a global conspiracy to abolish the game of golf. Okay, no, but you have to be a lunatic to believe that, right? So with this part of the Agenda 21 thing, you're going to put us in the Shire homes, Hobbit homes, and they agreed to do this as part of a world domination plot hatched 20 years ago. And they're going to get rid of paved roads. What kind of a lunatic do you have to be to believe that the United Nations has agreed, and all the governments, including ours, have secretly agreed that we'll be getting rid of paved roads from now on? And, of course, golf courses, right? So who is the mastermind behind this? Soros. So, explanation is the originator of this grand scheme is George Soros, who candidly supports socialism, Ted Cruz, and believes that global development must progress through eliminating national sovereignty and private property. Okay, he thinks Soros organized all the world governments and is part of a plot to get rid of golf and all private property. George Soros is a billionaire. He's one of the leading capitalists in the world. He does financial speculation. You think he's against private property? That is ridiculous. Here's a guy who spent a tremendous amount of money fighting communism to make sure that the old Soviet Union collapsed. You might disagree with some of his politics now because he's, unlike Ted Cruz, he's not insane, right? So the conservatives hate him. They're like, oh my God, he believes in clean government, right? And all these different things that they don't like about. But it's one thing to say, I don't agree with George Soros on topic A or topic B. To think he wants to get rid of private property is insanity. And then to add on top of that the Shire homes and the paved roads and the golf courses. God, man, this guy's running for president. He's in the middle of the pack. He's got some sort of shot. Okay. Because that's conspiracy theory number one. That's a nice doozy to start with. Let's go to some of the others. Number two is Islamic law threatens the United States. So he talks about this all the time. The Sharia law is coming. It's coming. And Oklahoma's teetering on the edge. If we don't do something right now, the Islamic Caliphate of Tulsa is this close. Okay? And come on, dude. Such classic fear-mongering, right? And but some of the conservative base eats this up. Oh, yeah, all the Muslims are coming. Oh, my God, they're going to take over San Antonio. It's the ravings of a lunatic mind. All right. I love this one. He says, Obama, conspiracy number 3, Obama wanted immigration reform to fail so he can campaign on it in 2016. See, Obama boldly proposed immigration reform only to have people like Ted Cruz fight against it and kill it so that he could actually use that to run for the 2016 elections, which he won't be in. Okay. But then, Ted, why did you help him by defeating it? Why weren't you a little bit more clever and help him pass it and be like, ha-ha, now you won't be able to use it in an election you're not running in, but I am. By the way, it's a curious plot because other people who agreed with President Obama on immigration reform and helped him pass it in the Senate were people like Marco Rubio and John McCain. Pretty sure they're not part of a plot to help President Obama with his politics. Okay. Now, this is a doozy. Conspiracy number 4 is George W. Bush led an assault on Texas sovereignty. That's right. W was too much of a lib, and he was trying to take away sovereignty from the state that he was the governor. That's probably true. So this is about a case of a Mexican citizen who was on death row in Texas. And at the time George W. Bush was president, he says, hey guys, we got a treaty with Mexico. This treaty is so sacrosanct, even North Korea doesn't violate this treaty, right? And Texas said, no way, man, we're going to execute them on. We don't care. We were supposed to give them rights. We don't want to give them any rights. North Korea, who get off? Right? So now George Bush was trying to enforce a treaty that we signed, right? You're trying to take away the sovereignty of Texas. Okay. Conspiracy number 5. And this might be my favorite. Soros one is too good. But this will probably come in second, okay? Communists have infiltrated Harvard Law School. What a jackass. Okay, so here was a quote from Ted Cruz on this topic. he explained that when he was there were fewer declared Republicans in the faculty when we were there than communists. There was one Republican, but there were 12 who would say they were Marxists, who believed in communists overthrowing the United States government. Now, that's hilarious because there were no communists. There was, as I'm about to read you from a Republican, at most there's one, right? Look, I went to a kind of a similar law school. I went to Columbia Law School. Yes, there was a lot of liberals. There was also a lot of conservatives. There's no one running around being like, I'm a Marxist. Great. Karl Marx is awesome. Nobody's saying it. Professors, they're not saying that. You're such a weirdo, man. You live in this weird, conspiracy-obsessed world where you're like, Soros and the Marxists. So let me give you a quote from a professor at Harvard who is a deep Republican. It is President Reagan's former Solicitor General, Harvard Law Professor Charles Fried, and he said, I would be surprised if there were any members of the faculty who believed in the communists overthrowing the U.S. government. That's Reagan's Solicitor General. Of course, there's no actual Marxists in the Harvard Law School professors, let alone 12 of them. If you believe the theories of Ted Cruz, I feel terribly sorry for you. This guy is a wacko bird, and unfortunately, he will gather a lot of wacko birds around him. We'll have to see if it's enough to win the Republican primaries. Probably not, but he'll make a run. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Soros getting rid of the golf clubs, the communists, the Marxists, and Harvard. This could be a fun race. Could be fun. All right. Now, speaking of weird, goofy dudes, I don't want to draw the analogy, but different kinds of weird dudes and dangerous dudes. Let's turn to ISIS. I wonder if people in ISIS also go. Probably not. They probably have other issues. Okay. So ISIS has put together yet another slick video we're going to show you in a second, some portions of it. It's to attract disabled fighters. Not physically disabled per se, although I'm sure they're also welcome, but in terms of people missing limbs or anything they suffered in war, but people who are, in this case, deaf and mute. So they're going to do a video in sign language. Is that kind of amazing? Okay. They explain that, quote, being deaf is not an excuse not to come and fight. See, we don't want to hear that shit about, I'm deaf, I can't come kill infidels. No, we need you to show up, okay? And they say, look, they're good people, but obviously, quote, they will come and slaughter everyone with Allah's permission. Well, I suppose you couldn't slaughter them without Allah's permission, right? And then they will turn around and do their main job. So what's their main job? They are to, quote, work as ISIS traffic police in Mosul. Okay. Fascinating. All right, so now we're going to show you the video, and then I will give you some more details as to exactly what these guys are up. Watch.
الحال عن المقال إله العالي أبدأ به مقالي أهديتها لمن حاولت روائع الانصاف إله العالي أبدأ به مقالي أهديتها لمن حاولت روائع الانصاف واشرحت فيه يا رب فاتبعهم آيات العلم ينادي واحفظهم يا رب عن بينهم وعن ضلالي يسمعون تقدام الدين وقول الجلالي يا فوتقيق شادا يا أطيب الغوالي وبالعز وضاعفا عن الباعث يسري فتبشرون
Okay, so the title was From Who Excused to Those Not Excused. Okay, you are not excused from blowing up infidels. Okay, so I like that they look like they were throwing up gang signs. They were very, emotive with their sign language. Okay, so these guys, apparently their job is to be traffic cops by day, and then as soon as that's over, in the full version of the video, they then go like, oh, okay, all right, now you go, and then now you guys, okay, all right, we're done, okay, our shift's over. Then they go and set up missiles. to go kill Kurds. And they explain these are missiles for the Peshmerga. We're going to go kill the Kurds in this. And then at the end, I guess, of a long, long day, they take a break. But they're setting up missiles. They're killing Kurds. They're directing traffic. Okay? And my favorite part, of course, was, as they explained in the video, we're doing this on behalf of Allah, who is all merciful. And, of course, we come to you only with slaughter. That's literally what it said, right? Don't get us wrong. He's merciful, but he will slaughter. Right after we're done directing traffic. Now, it is an interesting strategy because, one, they're, trying to say, hey, everybody needs to come. This is part of your obligation. Don't give me any excuses, right? And two, what they do is they're setting up a family atmosphere that, like, hey, look, the rest of the world might not want you. You feel like an outsider. You feel like you got no place to belong. That's all right. We're your place. So this is not just for the deaf and mute. This is for a broader coverage of everybody. It's a way of highlighting, ironically, how inclusive they are as they go on to explain in the video how they will kill everyone that isn't exactly like them. ISIS, very good with the videos, lots of, good production values, not good on irony. Okay, we'll be right back.
We talk about TYT Army being so strong. Usually they help us run our show. Now they're going to help us run the country.
Like this.
It's time that we reclaim democracy for the people.
We had a huge victory for Wolfpack.
When Lincoln said this was a country by, of, and for, he said of the people, not of corporations.
Our representatives don't represent us. Whoa! Democracy!
United!
We are!
We are!
Too strong! There's thousands of volunteers, and you can be among them.
With Wolfpack, the mission is so clear.
Money is killing our democracy. 96% of Americans want it. When you get the power back, oh, that feels good. This is just the beginning. Let's go get them, man. Up and at them. Knock, knock. We're coming for them! Wolf-pack.com. Hi, I'm Ben Mankiewicz with TYT Sports. Here's what I think of Washington NFL owner Dan Snyder. I invented the word jackbag with Dan Snyder in mind. You ready for this? Spurs in 5. That's mental, right? Watch.
Rodriguez, he's back in the game. Can he do anything here? He's taking no prisoners. He's going to go all the way, and he's got it.
I never told you guys about my younger twin brothers, and I thought I'd introduce them to you today. My brothers, Henrik and Joel.
The moral argument is, what do you tell your kids, right?
Tell your kids, I'm trying to win my fantasy football league, so I pick up Saddam Hussein. I know he's massacred people.
I'd fucking sign Uday.
Come on, the Rosie had a chance in beat.
Really?
Hell no.
What I think Neymar is good as a front striker. Partner him with Suarez and just have Messi do whatever he wants to do. If he wants to go and get a burger, let him. If he wants to go and have a drink at the side, let him do it as long as he can bang in the goals.
It is illogical. It's 100% wrong. It is indefensible. Anyone who makes an argument in defense of Kobe Lewis has never seen a baseball game or doesn't understand what baseball is.
Doesn't matter what your opinion is, as long as you have one. Subscribe to TYT.
Let me read you a couple of tweets before we move on. The Gaming Pegasus 187 says, Ted Cruz would be Mohammed Hassan from the 2005 Royal Rumble, eliminated immediately by everyone. I don't know that reference because I stopped watching wrestling before that, but I totally get it. Okay, and you're probably right. So they will probably heavily attack him all throughout. The other guys will. Lord Poseidon says religious zealots would rather follow Huckabee. Huckabee is more Christian state than Cruz's. That's very true. That's why Ted Cruz is boxed into a very narrow sliver of the electorate, because I think that Huckabee is going to out-church him, and then there'll be others who are just as hawkish as Ted Cruz is. And that's why I think that Rand Paul actually has a decent chance, because he has a larger sliver without that much people in that same category as being very conservative, but not necessarily in favor of more wars. Okay, so now, my two favorite tweets. Jeremy Varner writes in, it's kind of funny that conservatives are a little fond of a guy with roots from two countries they'd call socialist. Interesting. Canada and Cuba, of course. That's where Ted Cruz is from. His family's original from Cuba. And then finally, Chris Bradshaw says, GOP presidential primaries are like NASCAR racing. You don't watch it for the race, you watch it for the crashes and explosions. Excellent point. Yeah, exactly right. And just like NASCAR races, they also have all their sponsors that they are actually racing for. They don't put them on their coats, but they might as well. Okay, now, we got a lot more stories for you guys. Let's go to President Obama and Netanyahu and their latest beef. right before the Israeli elections, Prime Minister Netanyahu said a couple of questionable things, including singling out Arabs as scary people coming out to vote, and that, hey, you make sure that all you good Israelis come out and vote in the opposite direction. In fact, here we have the tape.
שלטון הימין בסכנה. המצביעים הערבים מגיעים בכמויות אדירות לקלפי. עמותות השמאל מביאות אותם באוטובוסים. רבותיי, לנו אין V15, לנו יש צו 8, לנו יש רק אתכם. צאו לקלפי, תביאו את החברים, בני המשפחה, תצביעו מחד, נסגור את הפער בינינו לבין מפלגת העם.
So watch out for the Arabs coming to vote. That did not play well in the rest of the world or here in the United States. So President Obama, in an interview with Huffington Post, talked about that.
We take him at his word when he said that it wouldn't happen during his prime ministership. And so that's why we've got to evaluate what other options are available to make sure that we don't see a chaotic situation in the region.
Yeah, sorry, that was about the wrong topic. Okay, sorry, let's save that one, Jesus. Save it, put it in your back pocket. Let's go to the next video. This is actually about the Arabs.
We indicated that kind of rhetoric was contrary to what is the best of Israel's traditions. Although Israel was founded based on the historic Jewish homeland and the need to have a Jewish homeland, Israeli democracy has been premised on everybody in the country being treated equally and fairly. And I think that is what's best about Israeli democracy. If that is lost, then I think that not only does it give ammunition to folks who don't believe in a Jewish state, but it also I think starts to erode the meaning of democracy.
So President Obama admonishing Netanyahu on those grounds, and it's notable because presidents of the United States don't often disagree with the leaders of Israel, but here it's actually going to become far more relevant on the issue of the two-state solution. Now, Netanyahu had said before the elections, I think that anyone who's going to establish a Palestinian state today and evacuate lands is giving attack grounds to the radical Islam against the state of Israel, meaning that he will not give away any land. He does not believe in a two-state solution. Now, President Obama had these words about that.
We take him at his word when he said that it wouldn't happen during his prime ministership. And so that's why we've got to evaluate what other options are available to make sure that we don't see a chaotic situation in the region.
What other options are available? Ooh, that's really interesting. So Think Progress went on to explain, with the loss of Netanyahu as a negotiation partner to any bilateral talks with the Palestinians, the administration has hinted that it could start working through multilateral organizations like the United Nations or the International Criminal Court. Okay, now that is very significant. That's the president saying, for the first time, America might not agree with Israel in the United Nations on important issues. So Israel says, no, block the Palestinians from getting a state at the United Nations because the legitimate way to do it is through peace talks where we go towards a two-state solution. Except now they just said, we don't want a two-state solution, basically declaring that they are not good partners for peace. So, well, then the only legitimate and diplomatic avenue that leaves is the United Nations. Now, the United States is considering granting the Palestinians some sort of leeway on that issue. I mean, don't think that tomorrow America is going to be like, yes, agreed, well, we'll take away our veto, Palestine, you're officially a country now. We're a long way from there. But apparently we're on the road, and that's a sea change. That's amazing. Here, I'll give you one more quote here from Think Progress on this issue. It said, it is reportedly considering introducing or backing a UN resolution that establishes the parameters and definitions for a two-state solution, a move that will be mightily opposed by the Israeli government and Republicans in Congress. Wow. I'm not sure I thought that it would ever come about, where America disagrees with Israel and says, yes, the Palestinians do deserve their own nation, and if you're not heading in that direction, we are. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. It's clearly the right thing to do. And Israel risks boycotts, sanctions, divestment efforts, and all the other things that go along with a rogue state if they don't realize that peace is the answer. If they say, no, we think war is the only answer, and we're going to continue to occupy the Palestinians indefinitely, it doesn't leave you much room. So one of the things that you can do is say, okay, then we agree with the Palestinians that they should have their state to the United Nations, very similar to what Israel did to form its state. Now, of course, Republicans do want to undermine the president on this, so Lindsey Graham, who is a Republican from South Carolina, put out a press release. And in that press release, Graham announced that he spoke to Netanyahu and indicated to the Prime Minister there would be bipartisan resistance to the Palestinian efforts to join the International Criminal Court. So that's among the things that the Palestinians are trying to do, get into the International Criminal Court, and then eventually get on the road to get their own state through the United Nations. And Lindsey Graham is telling the leader of another country, don't worry, I will help you undermine our president and make sure that American policy does not work to its stated goals. Whatever the president says is American policy, we will torpedo it, and we will work with a foreign leader to make sure that our stated policy goals do not come to fruition. And don't worry, we will never let the Palestinians have a state. We will agree with you, right or wrong, whether you're interested in peace or you're not interested in peace. Besides which, Lindsey Graham thinks, I'm a war hawk, a neoconservative that wants more war. You're a neoconservative that wants more war. Great, let's push for more war. Okay, now the rest of us don't agree with that, and so it is refreshing to see the president headed in the direction of diplomacy and peace instead. Okay, now, those are the good actions of the president. But if you ask Americans, they would prefer fictional presidents than the actual president. So let's go to that story. Hold 1 second here. Okay. Reuters Ipsos did a poll asking Americans about favorability rankings of different presidents. In this case, though, it was just President Obama versus TV presidents. So where did President Obama finish on that list? You're probably not going to be shocked to find out he didn't do well, but you might be surprised to find that he finished dead last. His current approval rating is 46%. All TV presidents that they polled did better, including Frank Underwood at 57% from House of Cards. He murdered several people. Okay, and they think he's better than President Obama. Fitzgerald Fitzgrant from Scandal is at 60%. I don't watch that show. Apparently he's a bad guy as well, but apparently better than President Obama in the polling. Laura Roslin, this is my favorite, from Battlestar Galactica. Nice throwback there. At 78%, I mean, she's keeping the fleet together. Gotta give her credit for that and fighting all that illness as well. Jed Bartlett from West Wing at 82%. Well, that's kind of encouraging. He was very progressive and strongly so. I like that Americans are very much in favor of him. And then David Palmer is at 89%. He's, of course, from 24. Now, they couldn't ask people this question if they didn't watch the show. So by definition, the people who watch the show tend to like the show more than people who don't watch it. So they're going to give it high favorability ratings, including the presidents on that show. Now, David Palmer is very stern and resolute in 24. All these guys are fairly resolute in fiction, because in fiction it's easy. But while I'm president, I will now do this. Jack Sparrow, go ahead and cut off his finger. Right? Plus, they have the additional benefit of bringing people together by having a black president who's willing to do things that are ethically questionable. And so progressives might go, oh, nice, black president. Republicans will go, oh, guy who's willing to, allow a little bit of torture. Kind of like the guy. And they get to be in favor of a black president who isn't actually president. So that's why David Palmer's a win for everybody. So yes, the poll's a little goofy. The sample size obviously means that it's biased because they're sampling for people who watch those shows. But it is funny that people overall look at the real world and go, kind of depressing, man. And, Republicans are never going to be in favor of a Democratic president. Democrats are not likely to be in favor of a Republican president. But when we turn on TV, ooh, look at these strong presidents we all like because it's so fictional and not like the real world at all, where it's really hard. I like those guys. How can you like Frank Underwood? I mean, as a character, he's interesting, but he's a loathsome guy. If he was can you imagine if Obama murdered a couple of people? They're like, oh yeah, that's strong. I'm going to up his approval rating to 57%. Oh, he pushed a young girl onto a subway train. I knew I liked that guy. On the other hand, maybe it would help him with conservatives. All right. Now, God, I'm running low on time. All right. Ooh, so many good stories. Ah, fuck it, I'm gonna do them all. All right, let's do it. Stay on course, okay? All right. From time to time, we hear that racism doesn't exist anymore, and we don't know why they're protesting in Ferguson and New York, etc. God, it's all Bill de Blasio's fault and Al Sharpton's fault and all these other people's fault. Yeah, or could it be that perhaps black Americans are used to cops in their neighborhoods intimidating them and discriminating against them? I know to some that seems like, oh, that's crazy. That couldn't possibly be true. Well, they're going to be interested to find out about some Fort Lauderdale cops who were found to be significantly racist, as you're about to see. NBC Miami reports the officers reportedly sent a trailer-style video amongst themselves containing Ku Klux Klan hood, attacks against minorities, derogatory images of President Obama, and racist comments about Hispanics and homosexuals. Okay, well, I like that they didn't leave anybody out. Now, you gotta understand, if you don't know about Fort Lauderdale, it's a metropolitan city. It's a large city, seems fairly open, has a large LGBT community, but apparently some of the cops are like, oh, those gays, obviously a huge Latino community, they don't like them either, let alone what they think about blacks, right? So now, luckily, these were discovered, and 4 of the cops have now been relieved of duty. They've been fired. Okay. Now, if you think this is not enough, you go, oh, well, look, who doesn't have a KKK hood running around to make funny videos with? All right. Well, I think I'm going to convince you with some of the text that they sent. Okay. Now, I'm going to say the N-word here throughout so you get a sense of what they were actually saying. Here, we're not going to self-censor in a goofy way. So, in the quotes, quote, "We are coming and drinking all your beer and killing niggers." Okay, that seems fairly clear. Those are the cops. And Fox 8 reports, in the text message exchanges, the former officers used racially derogatory terms to refer to the people they encountered while on duty, including racially insensitive material from the film Django Unchained, and talked about getting drunk and killing niggers, according to investigative documents. The men allegedly criticized co-workers, including African Americans, making crude comments about their grammar, appearance, and work ethic. One message referred to an entire shift as lazy fucks, the documents state. Now, it's not just the people that they're policing, it's their own colleagues. And ironically, of course, from time to time when people are caught, they'll turn around and go, what? No, we got black guys on the job. We're all brothers. No, we can't possibly be racist. A black guy walks out and they're like, get a load of that lazy nigger. They're on the record. We now know it. This is exactly what they were saying. And get a load of these guys questioning the morality of those other black cops. How about your morality, you sons of bitches? You're still not convinced? I'll give you one last quote, and if you're not convinced after this, then you're probably racist. Okay, so here's what they say. One of them says to the other, I had a wet dream that you two found those niggers in the VW and gave them the death penalty right there on the spot. So when black communities complain that perhaps cops shoot a little too easily and a little too quickly, you think maybe there might have some validity? But these are not all the cops in Fort Lauderdale, they're not all the cops in the country. But you get that some cops think this way? If you still live in La La Land and you think, no, all cops are angels and they came into this job just to do wonderful things and serve whatever community they happen to be in, I can't believe the civil rights protesters would impugn their motives. Understand that you might not deal with cops like this, but they deal with cops like this all the time. Even if they're a minority of the cops, at some point the chances are they'll run into a lot of the citizens. In fact, which community were these guys policing? Quote, the officers worked in predominantly black neighborhoods. So they go in those neighborhoods with that attitude. Imagine the damage that they do. Then you wonder why that community and that neighborhood is worried about cops and worried about how they might be racist. Turns out, at least in this case, they were absolutely right. Fox News. Mickey Couse is a really interesting blogger. He's actually one of the oldest bloggers around. I don't mean in age, but in terms of longevity. He's one of the first bloggers that ever came onto the scene on the internet. He's a conservative, so he was blogging at Daily Caller, which is run by Tucker Carlson. And he recently quit. And a little bit of drama going on behind the conservative scenes. So what was this all about? Well, Mickey Couse wanted to write about immigration reform and also wanted to say, hey, Fox News, why are you covering immigration more? Why is it always ISIS, terrorism, etc.? So he wrote a column critical of Fox News. Okay, interesting. Like, for example, we might criticize and often do MSNBC because we're independent. And we say, hey, look, they might be roughly progressive on some of the programs, but here's our disagreement. So good on Mickey Couse. And he wrote that meaning Fox News, filling up the airwaves with reports on ISIS and terrorism and not fulfilling their responsibility of being the opposition on amnesty and immigration. So now, understand, he's a conservative. He's pissed that they're not talking about amnesty more, right? So he's saying attack on those conservative issues. So Tucker Carlson then comes up to him and says, I'm going to have to take your column down. Quote, we can't trash Fox on the site. I work there. All right, well, that's pretty clear. Okay. The ending of this is fascinating. So Mickey Couse then explains, he said it was a rule, and he wouldn't be able to change that rule, so I told him I quit. I just don't see how you can put out a publication with that kind of giant no-go area. It's not like we're owned by Joe's Muffler Shop, so we just can't write about Joe's Muffler Shop, right? So he's saying, look, wait, Fox News doesn't own us. I don't have a contract with them. Are you telling me I can't criticize Fox News ever? Is that a little problematic? And he had put out in his article a timeline of all those stories that Megyn Kelly did in a certain time period. And his point was you almost don't see any immigration. All you see down the list is ISIS, State of the Union, Iran, Israel, terror alert, ISIS, terrorism, right? And it seems like they're obsessed with that. Well, Mickey, I got news for you. They are obsessed with it because their main go-to move is fear. What they want to do is fear-mongering with their public. Don't worry, they'll get around to fear-mongering on immigration, and you'll be really happy about that, okay? But they think this works better. Oh, the beheadings, be super scared. Oh, it's the weird, creepy Muslims. They're coming. Maybe they're coming across the border. Anyway, oh, be afraid. It's playing on people's emotion. It's emotional porn. And they know that works with their audience. That's why they're doing it. So, Mickey Couse goes on to say, I would suggest that the near-exclusive obsession with Middle Eastern terror is difficult to justify by the inherent news value of the subject, let alone its value to Fox viewers. Mickey, again, you're confusing policy and principles with what works in the ratings and what drives Fox's agenda. And then he said, you'd think the network would want to take a break, if only for variety's sake. This isn't what actual coverage designed to alert and inform the opposition to Obama would look like. But that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to scare the living bejesus out of people so that the 72-year-olds watching Bill O'Reilly's program get a little closer to the TV and go, oh my God, Sal, did you hear about the Muslims? They're coming. You got to listen to this on Fox. So yes, CNN runs nonstop Malaysian airline missing. Fox runs ISIS nonstop. It's perfect for them. So Tucker Carlson then sees this, right, and in the press, and you'd think that he'd want to fight back, right? Like, oh, wait a minute, this is outrageous, so that's not true. No, he puts out this statement. Mickey's a great guy, and one of the few truly independent thinkers anywhere. I'm sorry to see him go. In other words, have at it, Hoss. Okay. No, you're right. I don't want you writing stuff about Fox because I get paid to buy Fox News. So you're independent, I'm not. So now if you read the Daily Caller, you know I'm Fox's bitch. Isn't that amazing? What an admission. All right, well, it's a rare show of honesty, so I guess I like that. So this weekend, Mickey Couse went on Reliable Sources on CNN, and he had these two really interesting points to make. Watch this first.
He can run a website, if he wants, he can run a website saying that Roger Ailes is the most handsome man in the world. But at some point, it stops being journalism. Now, I think a lot of people there do good work. But keep in mind, it's not a no-go zone. I was wrong when I said it's a no-go zone. They write about Fox all the time. They just can't write nasty things about Fox. So it's a little deceptive for their readers. Do their readers know that there's this hard and fast rule that they can't say anything nasty about Fox? I don't think so. I don't even think their reporters really know it.
I kind of like Mickey in some ways. I've met him a couple times. He's an interesting character. I like that at this age he's still naive enough to think that they were doing journalism at the Daily Caller. Of course, it's not journalism. It's just propaganda for the right wing of the Republican Party and for Fox News. You didn't know that, Mickey? You're amazing, dude. All right, he's like, man, golly, gee, that doesn't look like journalism, does it? Of course, it's not journalism. All right, here's another point.
I mean, Fox is basically the only means, or the main means, the dominant means of upward mobility for a whole bunch of pundits and writers and wannabe pundits. Even if you don't have a show on Fox like Tucker does, you want to have a show on Fox. If you're an author, if Fox promotes your book's going to be a success. And the routes to success outside of TV, by saying being a mid-list book author without any TV exposure, those have dried up. So TV is dominant and Fox is dominant on the right.
Bingo! There you go. That's exactly right. Look, I worked in cable news for a little while, and I worked in radio for a long time, worked in a lot of facets of the media. And everybody's very cognizant of where you get paid. You get paid, and oftentimes a lot of money on television stations, cable news outlets. So everybody knows where their bread is buttered. Why do you think they don't criticize Fox so much on some of the other cable news outlets? Now, CNN is doing it a lot, especially on reliable sources. Some conservatives are not complaining about that, but they're right. They're pointing out the lack of journalism at Fox News, but for a long time they didn't. Well, the guy who used to be running reliable sources is Howard Kurtz. Now it's Brian Stelter. It used to be Howard Kurtz. Guess who Howard Kurtz works for now? You got it, Fox News. So that phenomenon is true on a grander scale, where a lot of people who work at the other cable news outlets think, one day I could be working at Fox News. So I don't want to tell people that Fox News is bad. One day they could be writing me a huge check. Or they already wrote my friends a huge check. Or I used to work for them and now I'm at CNN or I'm at MSNBC. That happens a ton. And for the people who haven't made it onto any of the cable news, they're dying to. Those are the big paydays. So they're like, what do you need me to say? Fox News, you're great, Fox News. You're the best, Fox News. So of course they're not going to attack Fox News, even if they know Fox News is wrong. Because it's all about the money, Lebowski. So those are the forces at play. And this little drama here has exposed those two factors that I think you all need to know when you watch an outlet like Fox News. Okay, finally, speaking of Fox News, let's do one last story. Now, this is fascinating. They're having a debate on Fox News on whether they're conservative. Don't worry, I'm sure the debate will be fair and balanced. But funny thing is, in the beginning it kind of is. You give Bill O'Reilly credit for bringing Bernie Goldberg on here. I don't know if he knew what he was going to say. But Goldberg says, who are you kidding? Of course Fox News is conservative. O'Reilly disagrees. Let's listen in on their conversation.
So Fox isn't the conservative network. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
What I'm saying to you is I never bought that Fox is the conservative network. I buy that Fox gives traditional conservatives a voice that they don't have on the other networks.
Hey, I was the first person to say that, even before you. They gave me a voice.
There's no right-wing jihad on this network. If somebody's screwing up on the right, they get hammered.
Not always. Let me give you a few examples. Liberals are anxious to talk about how Bush got us into Iraq, and that's why we have the chaos in the Middle East with ISIS that we have today. Okay. But what they conveniently leave out is that it was Barack Obama who took all the troops out that also contributed to the chaos. Conservatives on this channel, not the ones you mentioned, but many conservatives on this channel will only blame Barack Obama for what's happening in the Middle East, and they will conveniently leave out that Bush started the fire.
No operation is perfect.
Well, look, I give Bernie Goldberg credit there. I very often disagree with him there, but he's calling it like it is in that case. Like, basically with who are you kidding? I like how O'Reilly let him go for a while, then he's like, yeah, all right. So he cuts in and ends that nonsense. Now, I also like how O'Reilly said, there's no right-wing jihad on this network. Dude, you're the one who runs War on Christmas. Almost literally a right-wing jihad. Hey, okay, yeah. Bill O'Reilly, you're saying you're not conservative? I mean, that's unbelievable, right? But Sean Hannity's going to agree. Now, again, he's going to be slightly more honest here. He's going to at least call himself a conservative, although he doesn't say Republican. Go, Sean, who are you kidding? Okay, anyway. But he'll say there's no other anchors on Fox News that are conservative, I guess including Bill O'Reilly. Come on, watch.
I know that the people say Fox is conservative. I'm a registered conservative. As far as I know, I'm the only one on this channel that has a show that says they are a conservative. As a matter of fact, I can't think of any other network that allows a conservative to have 1 hour. 1 hour. Most trusted name in news in America is the Fox News channel.
That's right.
And I'm just the editorial page. And by the way, so are you. He's complaining. You are on this channel defending him even when he doesn't deserve it. We have great news people here. I'm not one of them. I'm not a great news person. I'm an opinion person. I am a conservative. I don't hide the fact I'm a conservative. This is not in that sense, it is an advocacy news program. Very different from a journalist.
God, I feel so bad for those two other schmucks. I shouldn't feel bad. They get big paychecks. But they go, oh, yeah, Sean, you're right. No, there's no other conservative on Fox. No, absolutely. You're the only one. No. Bill O'Reilly, no. Megyn Kelly, no way. No. All those other guys, conservative, never. Britt Hume, no way. No. Bill Kristol, that used to be on for all that time. No. Charles Krauthammer, no. None of these guys are conservative. No. Neil Cavuto, Lou Dodd. No. None of them are conservative. Come on, dude. And Juan Williams says, no, but I'm a liberal, and you give me a big platform. Yeah, Juan, they give you a big check is what they give you. Hey, you are supposed to come on here and give the opinion, the so-called liberal opinion. Half the time you go, oh, you conservatives are totally right. I don't know why I think that way. Another half the time you put out an argument that's halfway decent, and they go, oh, Juan, you're a crazy wacko. All right, let's go to the rest of our conservative guests. And then Juan goes, oh, yeah, you guys, best news, most trusted name in news, yeah. They did a recent poll where Fox News was called most trusted by the most amount of people. That's because more people watch Fox News, right? So they go, yeah, of the people watching television overall, they have a bigger share. So all those guys say, oh, I totally trust Fox News. It's not to say that they're actually the most trusted by all Americans. That's the most skewed result ever. And of course, the guys who are supposed to be liberal on that panel go, oh, yeah, Fox is most trusted. Biggest checks. I mean, yeah, totally. No conservatives on Fox News whatsoever, except Sean. We found the one tiny little conservative. See, but this is why people don't believe you, right? This is why you look ridiculous. This is why your slogan, fair and balanced, is the most preposterous thing anyone's ever heard. Yeah, there are no conservatives except Sean Hannity on Fox News. On which frickin' planet? You know, I don't have to make a further case, because it's plainly obvious. Not just the liberals, progressives, or moderates, or centrists. Every conservative that watches that goes, who the fuck are these guys kidding? I watch them because they're conservative, and I'm conservative. What are they lying to me for? Hey, I got news for you. They lie to you all the time. That's the tip of the iceberg. Young Turk.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong. Because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was bad. Cenk Uygur, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, hit up. I just remember thinking, what is this guy's name?
Cenk the Turk Uygur.
Bring a TV station, yes, says. The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It's right out of like Wayne's World. This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power. We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view.
Television, we're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
And fill and host beat CNN headline news combined.
At some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a tall glass of shut up.
If President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can support him.
He says to me, you won't believe the meeting that I just had.
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
They want him off the air. Cenk took an incredible risk.
We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media. the Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what you did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I'm going to be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing an actual show. I guarantee it.
Which Christian couple in their right mind, in the middle of a deeply fundamentalist community, in Pakistan is going to go around burning the Quran. There's no way that happened. Somebody had a grudge out for them. This is like the Salem witch trials, right? Oh, yeah, I don't like them. Who knows? Maybe one of them turned down somebody for sex. Who knows? I don't know why. But there's no way they burned the Quran in the middle of a fundamentalist crowd. Oh, yeah, a bunch of crazed fundamentalists. Let's go burn the Quran, see how it turns out for us. They knew how it would turn out. They didn't do that. Alright, back on the Young Turks, and check with you guys. Let me do some tweets as usual, and then we got a bunch of great stories for you guys. Straight White Dude says...
What? Why do you need to let us know?
I don't know, maybe it's a reference to Bitchy Gay Guy.
Maybe.
I don't know. He says, he quotes Sean Hannity, "I'm not a great news person." And then adds, "Agreed." Okay. Paul Charles, no operation is perfect, quoting Bill O'Reilly. He says, understatement of the frickin' century. In his reference to Fox News Channel, of course. Jeff Waldorf, so is Tucker saying criticizing Fox is a no-go zone for the Daily Caller? Ironic. And basically he is saying that. Okay, now finally I go to Stephen H. Matthews. Jank knows Battlestar Galactica. What is this? New respect, sir. So say we all. Okay, you know what happened to me? Real quick. I'm watching Battlestar Galactica on Netflix. I'm having the time of my life. President Roslin's doing this. They're doing that. Starbuck is having this kind of fight. It's great. And then I went back to watch the next episode.
There's a dude named Starbuck?
No, there's a woman named Starbuck. She's their best pilot.
Is she also the coffee connoisseur of the bunch?
And the president's a woman, so there's a lot of good stuff. Anyway, that's it. I go back to Netflix. Oof, gone. And apparently their window ran out on Netflix, and I was like, what is this now? I don't know what happened.
You snooze.
Interesting. I was like, lesson fucking learned. So now I'm watching Friday Night Lights going back to season 1, and I'm in a panic. I'm like in a cold sweat. I'm like, wait, don't run out. I gotta see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, interesting. Alright, anyways, we got a great hour. Go.
Alright. We start off with a story about semen.
Can I just say, look, we got we make some serious ones, we make some light ones in this hour.
This is like, I think the story's in between.
Kind of. Okay. Yeah. So, later we're going to have some pretty serious stories, but I have to confess to, loving/hating this story. Okay, that's my needless pre-roll for that. Alright, forward.
Alright. John Robert Lind was very much attracted to one of his female co-workers, a woman by the name of Pat Moss. And so he wanted to get her attention in a way that some might consider unsavory, to say the least. So apparently this man was putting his own semen into her coffee when she wasn't looking, and she was then consuming said coffee with semen in it. Now, according to police reports, graphic number 3, her coffee sometimes tasted funny over the course of 6 months.
Right.
And then in August, she came back to her desk and saw the coworker with a deer-in-the-headlights look. She looked down at her coffee cup and saw a puddle of fluid on her desk.
Oh,
so apparently,
Lord mercy.
Apparently this man, who we do have a picture of, graphic number 1, thought that this would somehow get her attention in a positive way, and obviously he got some sort of sexual thrill out of doing it, although he claims that he did not get a sexual thrill. That had nothing to do with it.
Why is he doing this to Elizabeth Edwards? That's not right.
That is, why would you add insult to injury to poor Elizabeth Edwards? Okay, anyway, so he confessed. Police investigated it, and then finally he confessed, yes, I did ejaculate in her coffee. Sometimes I would ejaculate on her desk. I thought that she would be into that. Now, when asked why he did this, Lind said he thought it was a way to get the victim to notice him. He denied that it was a sexual compulsion that he could not control. Now, all of these details are interesting. What kind of criminal charges is he going to face? I'm going to get to that in a second, but Jake is dying to make a comment about the semen story, so go ahead.
Okay, you're going to be shocked by the charges against him, but, dude, that is not the right way to get people's attention. Hey, Sally, you're not going to believe this, but I came all over your desk. What he says, no, you don't understand. It wasn't just her coffee. Sometimes I'd come on the desk. Sometimes I'd come on other articles she had in the office. You're not getting any better, dude. Okay, none of this is making the situation any better. Okay, and then they're like, hey, she tasted funny coffee for like 6 months.
Oh my
She's a Lord of mercy. How long you been doing this? And he's like, okay, fine. I might have done it one other time, or 4 other times. But all forewarned in her coffee. Sometimes I jizzed on other things. Okay.
I'd like to know the setup of this office, because in what type of workspace do you easily whip out your penis, proceed to masturbate, and then ejaculate not only into the coffee cup, precision there, really.
Yeah.
And also all over the furniture.
No, but that's the thing. So, Anna, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Did he clean up the rest of the table later? Like, because
He
apparently he
had to
did this on a regular basis, right?
Yeah.
So is he like, nah, fuck it, just leave it there? Or is he like, just make sure that he doesn't get caught, he wipes up the rest of it?
I'm sure he cleaned up the rest of it, because if he was jizzing all over the desk, she would see the jizz all over the desk, and she would alert authorities immediately. Anyway, so what kind of charges is he facing? Originally, this Minnesota man was facing some sex crime charges, okay? He was being charged with sexual assault, and as a result, if he was convicted of this crime, he would have registered as a sex offender. Well, in Minnesota, there's a loophole when it comes to their sex crime laws. There is absolutely no indication that it is illegal for the guy to masturbate and ejaculate into the coffee cup. Therefore, he will not be charged or tried as a sex offender, okay? And to make matters worse, well, I don't know if this makes matters worse, but he was not...
the jizz in the coffee was probably as bad as it gets. I mean, we were already near the bottom of the barrel there.
So based on current reports, he isn't going to be charged with anything. There is a possibility that this woman could go after him for other charges, but it seems unlikely. The one thing that I will say, though, is she is on a mission in Minnesota to make this a sexual assault crime that does get you registered as a sex offender. She wants him registered as a sex offender.
Isn't that amazing? Now there's a woman, justly so, trying to get a law passed. Hey, could you not come in my coffee? I think that should be kind of against the law. So now they're going to probably have to bother passing a law in Minnesota saying, please don't masturbate into other people's coffee. Okay, wrong kind of creamer. Hey, by the way, they worked at a hardware store. The name of the store was Weiss Wangers. Dude, there's wangers in the name. It's a hardware store. What did you expect to get? Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, it's very wrong. It's very wrong. You're a sick man. You need to get some help.
All right. Okay. In other coffee-related news, Starbucks is deciding to end a portion of their race awareness campaign where they are putting the hashtag race together on coffee cups. Now, there was a lot of controversy, this huge kerfuffle over this issue. They wanted to not only raise awareness about race relations here in the United States, but they also wanted to basically put people on notice and let them know that Starbucks as a company is going to be much more inclusive in their hiring process. They're also going to build new Starbucks in areas that are predominantly
minority.
Minority. I don't know why I'm having a hard time explaining. This is an easy story to understand, but nonetheless, they want to start a dialogue about race in the country. Now, people did not take kindly to this campaign. They thought that it was strange for baristas to get involved. They thought it was strange for baristas to use that hashtag on coffee cups. A lot of people go to Starbucks with the intention of studying or writing or just relaxing, and so they felt like this wasn't the proper forum in order to have this conversation. Now, Howard Schultz, who is the CEO of Starbucks, did speak to the press about this and some of the backlash, and here's what he had to say. While there has been criticism of the initiative, and I know this hasn't been easy for any of you, speaking to his employees, let me assure you that we didn't expect universal praise. Well, it's good that he didn't expect that because a lot of people absolutely hated this campaign. One person said the following: most people come to Starbucks for coffee. Race is an uncomfortable thing to bring up, especially in a Starbucks. Another person said, they're here for coffee. They're not here to push their political agenda. I even contemplating not coming here because of it. There are other ways you can go about doing things to stimulate interest in what you're doing. They must be doing so well, they don't have to worry about losing customers over that.
Okay, so conventional wisdom is this was a flop, it was a bad idea, and they shouldn't have done it in the first place, and they realize now they shouldn't have, that's why they're stopping. So Starbucks says, no, that's not true. We had planned to stop on March 22nd. We just didn't announce that earlier. That part of the story I don't really care about. If they decide to stop now early, so what, right? Yeah. Here's what I do care about. I actually really applaud them for doing it. I'm not in the camp that thinks it was stupid and goofy. Don't get me wrong. Like Howard Schultz said, it's really hard, and it might have actually cost them some customers, and it is uncomfortable. But look at the bravery of a corporation to do that and to do it with good intent, right? knowing that they might lose customers, knowing they're going to get blue. But you think they didn't know when they put #race together that people were going to, make fun of them and like it didn't occur to them that having a conversation with your barista about race is a little awkward? Like they knew that was coming. And they tackled it anyway. Even if this isn't a shining success at this moment, when you look at it in a short-term way, it's at least them trying to do the right thing by getting people to push past that uncomfortableness to have that conversation. I think it's phenomenal.
I applaud them for wanting to hire more minorities. I applaud them for wanting to open up stores in areas that have more minorities living there. But at the same time, I think that this kind of falls short of sparking an important dialogue, right? So what has happened so far from them using this hashtag on coffee cups? Absolutely nothing. No one's had a discussion. If anything, people have just criticized Starbucks, and that's it. And so I think that this was the initial phase of them publicizing something good that they're going to do, but they could have publicized it in a more effective way. And also, because of the timing, people are criticizing them because of the Ferguson protest, and they think that they're kind of exploiting that or capitalizing on that. I can understand that criticism, and it could be a valid criticism, but nonetheless, if they used what happened in Ferguson to spark a dialogue about race, then I'm in favor of it. I just don't think that this component of their campaign was really successful.
Yeah, I don't believe that it was opportunistic at all. If anything, it's going to polarize people and cost them customers, and they did it anyway because they thought it was the right thing to do. To criticize them on the heels of Ferguson is insane if you're on the issue of civil rights and on that side of the ledger. You want people to talk about it. This is the perfect time to talk about it. And look, to counter your point, I will quote Maximus Decimus Meridius.
Thank you.
What we do in life echoes in eternity. Right? So this is what they've started, right? And you don't know what the ripple effects of this will be. And I don't think it's going to be magical that all of a sudden, like, oh my God, we woke up one day and racism was gone. It was because a butterfly effect. At one point, Starbucks wrote something on a cup. But I do believe that giant changes start with small actions. And this was a corporation having morality in a way that is, in my opinion, totally unexpected. Not because it's Starbucks, because of any corporation doing it. They're still led by their founder. I think that has a lot to do with it. They have not become a robot yet. They made a human decision that tried to get us other humans who go to Starbucks and spend a lot of time together to actually talk to one another. I love it. Even if it's a failure, it's a wonderful failure, and it gets us on the right path.
Yeah, I do really appreciate the fact that they're willing to take a risk. Because way too often, when it comes to an established brand, people are too afraid to do anything that might stir the pot even a little bit. Even though I don't think this component of their campaign was successful, I will applaud them for taking a risk.
Yeah. Look, now time for Goofy Sports Analogy, brought to you by Cenk Uygur. Sometimes I drive to the basket, even though I'm not very tall, and I get stuffed. And I know...
you get stuffed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I get my shit set.
Okay.
Is that better?
I don't understand any of this, but keep going.
Okay. They will block my shot.
Okay, perfect. Just say that.
Okay, all right. And I know that a certain percentage of the time that's going to happen, but I'm not worried about how it's going to look at that moment. I'm not worried about looking bad. I'm not worried that the actual play goes poorly at that particular moment. What I'm worried about is an attitude that if you drive to the basket, good things will happen. So... on a macro scale, we might not get that basket, but we'll get more baskets over the course of a game, right? So this is Starbucks driving to the basket. So in this case, some people might argue that their shot got swatted, right?
Or they got stuffed.
Or that their shit was sent. Okay. And their plan to have people vent to you over this didn't work. Okay. But overall, this is what leads to change. That small step after small step where we actually talk to each other and realize one another's perspectives. And what better way to do it than when you're standing around Starbucks and using their facilities when you're hardly paying them anything?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
All right. Charlotte Green used to be a local news reporter in Anchorage, Alaska, but she very publicly quit her job live on the air because she wanted to be a marijuana activist. Now, very, very recently, Alaska did legalize marijuana for recreational use. Charlotte Green was part of the campaign to legalize it for recreational use, and she actually is part of something known as the Alaska Cannabis Club. Now, unfortunately, local authorities recently raided the Cannabis Club because they thought that there would be illegal marijuana sales there. Even though voters did legalize marijuana for recreational use, that hasn't come into effect yet because the state lawmakers need to decide what the regulations will be on that recreational marijuana. So cops apparently raided the facility because they thought that, hey, maybe they're selling recreational weed even though they're not supposed to be. Now, according to the reports, Associated Press says that the police took marijuana and impounded a Dodge Dakota and a Jeep Liberty on Friday. Okay, and if you know anything about civil forfeiture, that probably means that the local police department will get to profit from keeping those things. Also, Charlotte Green did speak to the press about this raid, and she says, "We don't sell any recreational marijuana. We don't sell any medical marijuana. This is a place for cardholders to come and share their own cannabis." And then she also said that she saw them uproot a couple of marijuana plants. They took some bongs and pipes and phones and computers, and that's pretty much it. But she also said that by opening back up bright and early, less than 24 hours after the local police department's failed scare tactic, we at the Alaska Cannabis Club have made it clear that the will of the people is stronger than any force they have, and we aren't going anywhere.
Damn, that's excellent. I love her attitude. And look about how ridiculous our laws are. You go to raid a place that's probably selling legal weed, right? And you're like, let me just take their cars instead.
It's ridiculous.
Wait, but the cars have nothing to do with this. Like, the original idea behind this law theoretically was, the guy's selling pot out of his car, he's using the car while selling the pot that's part of the crime, we're going to impound the car, right? No. Now it's like, I don't know, there's a car in your parking lot, you're selling weed out in the open in your store, okay, or you're having people come in with the weed and smoke it together, right? We all see it. Who cares? I'm going to carjack you anyway. I mean, we got the cops literally doing carjackings on people who are doing arguably something very, very legal.
Right. Now, no one has been charged with any crime, so it really was just a scare tactic. And another thing that I'd like to note is oftentimes the cops will make the argument that they are taking these possessions because it's part of their investigation. But oftentimes, even if someone is never charged with a crime, the cops oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes get to keep the cars, they get to keep the things that they took during their investigation, never return it, and the police department literally profits off of that. That's a huge part of the revenue.
They often just sell the cars, right? And only 5% of the time do the people get their materials back, their property back. In this case, it happens to be a car. Only 5% of the time, right? So, and look, if you want to investigate to see if there's pot inside the car or other drugs, you can do that on the spot.
You don't need to, take possession of the vehicle.
Yeah. No, they took it, man. They just stole it. That's a carjacking. That's what the cops did, right? And so this war on drugs is stupid. It's done oftentimes to profit for the cops. So they feel like, oh, okay, this is an easy person to pick on. Everybody knows her. So, oh, yeah, we'll just come and take your car. Unreal. I'm obsessed about the car part. This is a crazy injustice all throughout the country, not just in this case.
And I just want to give Charlotte Green props. Because one of the reasons why she quit her job as a reporter was because she had to report on the drug war. And it was something that obviously she had some bias in, some sort of vested interest in. And so she quit her job in that regard. But also, she's feisty. And I love that. I love that she's a fighter and she's not going to let the intimidation by the local police department stop her from doing what she knows she should be able to do.
Yeah. Hey, sis, can we put up graphic 13 again? I'd like to give Charlotte Green some credit as well.
You are the worst. You are the worst.
No. Look, I mean, she's a woman after my own heart. She's a fighter, okay? And God bless her heart. I gotta stop talking.
You do. And you know what? We're gonna make him stop talking by going to our first break. When we come back, designer pigs, what is that, and why is PETA upset about it?
Yeah, don't worry. It's gonna be okay.
Alright, back on the Young Turks. So, we were just talking about how what we do on TYT echoes in eternity. Okay, it kind of does. Our videos are amazing fact. 50% of the views on our videos on YouTube come 90 days after we posted it.
Wow.
Isn't it?
You know what's also really interesting? So, I mean, I grew up in front of a camera when you really think about it. Like, I started when I was like, I had just turned 20 or I was like in 19, I don't remember. But
No, we got Anna from one of those toddler pageants.
but okay, so I started, oh my god, I'm 28 now, I'm going to be 29 this year. Like, I grew up. I mean, in your 20s, you go through a lot. And so someone might find a video of me from like 2007, 2008, and I might say something that's totally idiotic, which I totally did, and think that that represents who I am today. That's kind of scary.
Or you might make a noise like that on every. Okay, no, I'm pretty sure I've said some crazy things on it. They might have even made a movie about it. Anyways, okay, a couple of quotes here, or tweets. Raver Madness says, I don't see it as Starbucks sparking a dialogue. I see it as them exploiting a real societal issue for profit. Am I too cynical? My answer would be yes. Normally you'd be right to be cynical, but in this case, I don't think that's the case. Look, I make this weird distinction. It might seem weird at first, but I actually think there's a lot of truth in it. When the founder of the company is still running the company is still human, right? Corporations are people, my friend, right? The corporation isn't, but he still makes decisions as a human being, right? Once the founder has left and you have a CEO imposed by the board, well, then the board has taken over.
Yeah.
Right? And then the corporation is just if it's a publicly held corporation, then it must maximize profit. And that's it. Right? And so that's when they start, then your cynicism, I think, would be justified. So that happens. It doesn't happen in every case, but it happens often. Okay. Mr. Red Penguin says, this is a fucking fun second hour. Keep this shit up. And a little of this action, too, apparently. Leo says, wowza! Can I say how much I love Anna's dress today?
I actually love this dress, too. I bought it at one of those secondhand stores for $12.50.
Good for you!
I don't think I've ever shared that on the show. I'm like a big bargain hunter, and this is one of my best purchases.
I can't believe they haven't done a reality show on that yet.
They probably will.
I know. They're bargain hunter, bargain. What will be the next bargain in the next store? And then, oh my god, I found something that's worth $1 million that the producers planted a minute ago. Okay, anyway. No More Donation says, LOL, one of the many reasons I drink my coffee black, referring to our first story. Speaking of our first story, Psychnosis with perhaps the best tweet of the day, Pastor Manning was right all along. Maybe that's why they put the semen in the coffee.
Just to make it taste better, right?
Yeah, then because
semen makes it taste so delicious.
How can he admit that, man? He's like, oh no, semen can be very flavorful.
Oh my goodness.
That was not a bad Pastor Manning accent I just gave that. Okay, oh, sorry, one more. Members of the day. I think I'm down here. I'll go with member number 1954, Carol Sulestica. Carol, I'm so sorry for how I butchered your last name there. Member number 1955, Lindsay Marshall. So Carol and Lindsay, you guys are awesome. We'll have a fun post game for you guys, as we always do. Maybe I'll talk about my birthday and what I did.
I have a story too. Quick one.
My story is somewhat boring, so we'll mainly go with Anna's story. Okay? Alright, now let's keep going.
Alright. A designer living in China is selling pigs, live pigs, for 50,000 pounds, or close to $100,000. How does he do this? Well, it turns out that he tattoos the pigs with a Disney theme, and then after the pigs pass away, I should note, he sells the skin to designers who then turn the skin into handbags, which is amazing. So you see those pictures there. It's amazing to me that he thinks tattooing pigs is acceptable, but he says that there are 3 individuals who massage the pig as a tattoo artist, puts these mediocre tattoos on the pig's bodies, and then, he sells them. Amazingly, people will buy these pigs for an incredible amount of money. Now, I should note that he started doing this in the United States. However, PETA and other animal rights activists went after him, and he was also a little tired of some of our regulations when it comes to animal cruelty, so he decided to go to a country that is much more lax when it comes to these issues, so he went to China, and he's doing his thing.
Well, if he keeps getting people to pay $100,000 per pig, he'll be living high on the hog.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he'll be in hog heaven, bringing home the bacon.
Oh.
I guess with all that money, he could pig out. Okay, I just wanted to get all those out of the way with one. Okay, now, my main point about the story is, why? Why? Isn't that amazing? I guess if there's 7 million people on the planet, there's going to be one dude that's like, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
He had an epiphany about this one day. And he went and told people, oh, dude, I'm going to tattoo pigs when they're alive. And hold, not yet. And they're going to be Disney characters on the tattoos. And everybody must have thought, what a jackass. But I guess if you do anything for long enough, people are like, wait a minute. Did you say you put Disney characters on tattooed on pigs? Brilliant, I say, brilliant. There's $100,000.
So the artist's name is Jim Deloy, and I looked into him because
I guess he was devoid of any other idea.
I guess so. And so he's actually a pretty controversial artist. He's gotten into some trouble in the past. But what I find so fascinating about this is that there's a market for shitty art. We've talked about it on the show before. But how is anyone willing to sign on to the fact that these pigs are going through the torture of being tattooed, right? Getting a tattoo is not painless. Obviously, it's painful. And then also, you really make handbags out of this? Like, let's say you don't care about ethics at all. You don't care about the animals' well-being at all. You don't give a shit about any of that. You're just genuinely a designer who cares about fashion. You want to make these great handbags. Look at these pigs. Look at those tattoos. They're disastrous. That looks like a tattoo that was done in a prison.
Well, it was kind of a prison for the pigs, unfortunately. No, you're right. First of all, on ethical grounds, don't do this, man. The pigs didn't agree to get tattooed. It's so. Then on art grounds, to quote my dad, what is this? Why would you want a purse made out of a pig that was tattooed with a Disney character?
I don't.
Why? Why? What's wrong with you?
You know what the problem is, Cenk? We don't understand art. Okay, Delvoye is a deeper human being who understands concepts that we just can't really grasp.
Yeah.
And so we're in the wrong here.
Yeah, I was reading about Jackson Pollock and how he was doing his art. The more you read about it, the more you realize what an utter load of crap it is. He's like, oh, I have to be in the right zone when I sprinkle the paint. Sometimes I'm not, and it doesn't come out right. And you're like, why? What's the difference between this sprinkle of paint and that sprinkle of paint? That time I was kind of in the right mood. Like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. He doesn't intend anything by it. He just gets like high and starts going,
What does he get high on?
Yeah, I don't know, right? And then this dude does this. But look, the one upside to this story is it's a testament to willpower. Like, you can take literally the shittiest idea anyone has ever come up with and turn it into a lucrative living for yourself just by, like, sheer persistence. I'm going to make it work. People are going to really be into these pig handbags. One day. And it turns out he was kind of somewhat right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it also kind of makes you reflect on what you're doing for a living. Look, I like what I do. I'm fulfilled. But let's say I didn't care about all that and I just wanted to focus on profit. This guy sells pigs for $100,000 a pop, right? I mean, anyway.
I don't know if we have a camera on Jesus yet, but I was going to ask him if he'd wrestle down a pig and tattoo his ass for $100,000.
Okay, I think I might do that too.
No,
ethics.
Yeah. I might not, but on the other hand.
All right, moving on. A 12-year-old girl in Boulder, Colorado has been arrested for attempting to poison her own mother with bleach on 2 different occasions. The reason why this girl wanted to poison her own mother was because her mom had taken her iPhone away from her and she wanted revenge. Now, according to authorities, on March 2nd, the mother got sick after she drank a smoothie her daughter made for her with bleach. The mother said she detected an odor of bleach and assumed her daughter hadn't cleaned the glass properly prior to concocting the drink. Later on, she apparently attempted to put bleach into her mother's water, and at that point her mom was like, yo, you're trying to kill me. Mm-hmm. So she alerted the authorities, she got treatment from the hospital, the mother is recovering, she's doing fine, but the girl is actually going to face some serious charges, 2 counts of attempted murder.
Well, that's what it is, so that's why she should face them. This is really scary, man.
It is scary.
For anybody who's got young kids, you know how addicted they get to iPads, right? iPads, iPhones, whatever it might be. And I know even with my kids, man, you try to take that stuff away and they look at you like, don't make me go get the bleach, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a serious story, but like they lose their temper once you take it away, and all the signs of addiction. So we're trying to bring it down. And I know a lot of parents these days are wrestling with how much is too much? Should you take it away entirely? Ben says they don't let their 2-year-old watch any screens, including television, right? Ever. And so, I mean, if you can do that, I guess that's a good thing. I guess we're not disciplined enough to be able to pull that off. But obviously, this is the worst case scenario. This is not going to happen in every case. Hopefully, it almost never happens, right? Mm-hmm. It did happen in this case, but it is more symbolic of what's happening on a smaller scale, where these are causing a lot of issues inside families.
Absolutely. And parenting is hard enough, but now there's that extra layer of technology and trying to determine how much technology is too much, whether or not the technology is a necessity, because in some cases it is a necessity. So if we're talking about someone who's prepubescent or someone who's a teenager, they're going to school, parents obviously want to have some communication with them, some contact with them. It's a necessity in that regard. But at the same time, that technology could be used for bad things as well. The first time I got a cell phone, I was 18, I think, 17 or 18. And I used it to call a boyfriend that my mom didn't want me to date. And so it sucks. It sucks because now you have to grapple with all those issues. And then you hear stories like this, and it's incredible that someone would try to poison and kill their own mother over an iPhone.
Yeah, no, it's scary for all the parents out there. And I remember when I was a kid, we used to go outside and we would create things. We'd invent things so that we could have a good time, right? We'd take a box and we'd make a house out of it, and then somebody would sit on the box, and then you'd have to get into a fight. But everybody was having fun, right? And then it would snow, and we'd make a fort out of the snow, and a snowman, and a cave, and we'd do all these different things, and we'd have fun, right? Now, you don't need to use any of your brain to do those things. There's a great documentary that's coming out called Bounce. It's also produced by Andrew Napier, and it explains why human beings want to play with balls. I know it sounds funny every time, right?
Or just want to play in general.
Right, and it's because it has an evolutionary advantage. It spurs creativity, creative thinking, different solutions, adaptation,
right,
interpersonal relationships. And all of that is missing from an iPhone or an iPad as you just look at it, right? You're not doing anything. You're not an active participant.
It's so true. And I'm seeing this more and more, where you'll go to a place like a restaurant and couples will make dinner reservations and they don't talk to one another. They're sitting across from one another and the entire time they're on their phone. It's incredible because you start to see your own relationship deteriorate as you're obsessed with the technology that's in front of you.
As you said couples at dinner, I thought, chocolate martini.
The point that I want to make on this story. When I'm out to dinner, there's a rule that I have. Either I leave the phone in my car or I leave the phone in my purse. And I just don't touch it because it's so tempting. Like having the phone sitting right next to you makes you want to grab it and check. And you know, you're with the people that you care about the most. Why are you checking your phone? You're checking your work emails? No, dude, enjoy your dinner.
Okay, said the woman with an iPhone right next to her.
It's not an
as
iPhone.
we do the show.
It's not an iPhone. It's a Galaxy.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Which has an excellent camera, by the way. Anyway, I know, but I'm not checking it.
No, just during the breaks.
Of course. What are we
What
gonna?
else would I do?
Are we gonna?
Would we talk, communicate about the show during the breaks? What's
okay,
wrong with
all right, we'll communicate then. We'll communicate.
No, I don't care. I'm checking my iPad, but I'm checking for your tweets. It's part of the job. All right. Yeah. All right, forward.
All right. A lead prosecutor who played a pivotal role in prosecuting a man and convicting a man for a crime that he did not commit has now penned an op-ed where he apologizes for his role. This is A.M. Marty Stroud. He is, or was, a district attorney in Louisiana, back in the day, and apparently as the lead prosecutor in the December 1984 first-degree murder trial of Glenn Ford was actually sentenced to death for the November 5th, 1983 death of a Shreveport jeweler by the name of Isidore Roseman. It turns out that he did not actually kill Roseman, but he was sentenced to prison, and actually he was supposed to be executed. However, he was exonerated after serving 30 years behind bars, and Glenn Ford was released from prison on March 11th, 2014, after the state admitted new evidence proving Ford was not the killer.
So what you're about to hear is one of the best apologies I have ever heard in my life. This is what you would hope the prosecutors would think and say when they see a case that they prosecuted lead to an exoneration. You almost never see it. You usually see the opposite. Oh, yeah, I had good evidence. I don't know about this, right? This guy's like, no. Turns out we were wrong, massively so. But I love the way he stated.
Yes. Now, I'm not going to read you the whole thing, obviously. These are bits and pieces, and we can stop as we go and discuss. He says, I was at the trial of Glenn Ford from beginning to end. I witnessed the imposition of the death sentence upon him. I believe that justice was done. I had done my job. I was one of the prosecutors, and I was proud of what I had done. Mr. Ford spent 30 years of his life in a small, dingy cell. His surroundings were dire. Lighting was poor. Heating and cooling were almost non-existent. Food bordered on the uneatable. Nobody wanted to be accused of coddling a death row inmate.
So if you stop there for 1 second, that's a really good point. He says, look, we treat these people so badly because of political perceptions of, oh, you're going to be coddling a death row inmate. So we make it worse and worse on them. So in this case, he happened to be innocent. But even if he was guilty, and some are in there obviously for very serious crimes, and other people in prison for not so serious crimes. But the political careers and aspirations of others drives us to treat those people incredibly inhumanely. And think about whether that's really the right thing to do.
He continues to write, investigators uncovered evidence that exonerated Mr. Ford. Indeed, this evidence was so strong that it had been disclosed. Had it been disclosed during the investigation, there would not have been sufficient evidence to even arrest Mr. Ford. The bureaucratic response appears to be that nobody did anything intentionally wrong, thus the state has no responsibility. This is nonsensical. Explain that position to Mr. Ford and his family. Facts are stubborn things. They do not go away. Now, he then goes into the issue of whether or not the state of Louisiana should pay Ford for the time that he served behind bars. Oftentimes when someone is exonerated, they'll get some sum of money. It's usually in the millions. Now, in this case, Louisiana is fighting that. And he thinks, the prosecutor in this case, thinks it's absolutely ridiculous. Glenn Ford should be completely compensated to every extent possible because of the flaws of a system that effectively destroyed his life. The audacity of the state's effort to deny Mr. Ford any compensation for the horrors he suffered in the name of Louisiana justice is appalling.
He's like, look, I was part of the prosecution team. Yeah, no, we weren't malicious. We weren't trying to get him, although he doesn't emphasize that very much. He just emphasizes all the things they did wrong, right? But he's like, we put the guy away for 30 years. Don't you have any conscience? We ruined his life. Of course you should compensate him. What are you doing here? And I like that he's framing it in the form of bureaucracy. Now, if this bureaucracy is trying to crush his life a little bit more, no, give the man what he's due.
And also, if you don't compensate him, what is this man going to do after he's been in prison for 30 years? What kind of normal life is he supposed to live?
I mean, what is he supposed to pull himself up by the bootstraps? You've destroyed any career he could have had, let alone...
You've destroyed his life. 30 years. That's a huge, huge chunk of your life. Now, he does take ownership of the things that he did wrong, and I do applaud him for that. Here's what he had to say. Part of my duty was to disclose promptly any exculpatory evidence relating to the trial and penalty issues of which I was made aware. My fault was that I was too passive. I did not consider the rumors about the involvement of parties other than Mr. Ford to be credible, especially since the 3 others who were indicted for the same crime were ultimately released for lack of sufficient evidence to proceed to the trial. Had I been more inquisitive, perhaps the evidence would have come to light years ago, but I wasn't, and my inaction contributed to the miscarriage of justice in this matter. Okay, so he continues to say, my mindset was wrong and blinded me to my purpose of seeking justice rather than obtaining a conviction of a person who I believe to be guilty. I did not hide evidence. I simply did not seriously consider that sufficient information may have been out there that could have led to a different conclusion, and that omission is on me.
So there's a lot of parts of this apology that are good, but here he's being very specific about the things that he did wrong, which I really, really appreciate. It's easy to say, oh, my bad, and just move on. Sorry, and move on. Kids do that, right? Oh, sorry.
No. You know what kids do? Kids do what the majority of prosecutors do in cases like this. They deny that they did anything wrong.
That's right.
They don't take ownership.
That's right. So here he takes ownership and says, let me explain in detail all the things I did wrong that I feel terrible about because my actions led to this guy's life being ruined.
So he says, it never occurred to me that the defense had insufficient funds to hire experts or that defense counsel shut down their firms for substantial periods of time to prepare for trial. I also participated in placing before the jury dubious testimony from a forensic pathologist that the shooter had to be left-handed even though there was no eyewitness to the murder. And yes, Glenn Ford was left-handed.
And he goes on to explain that that was junk science. And they realized later that it was junk science, but they never retried the case, obviously. Right?
How do you support the death penalty? I just don't get it.
And he explains that the defense attorneys were not criminal attorneys. They never tried a criminal case. They were civil attorneys. And at the time, you high-five, you're thinking, ha-ha, I've got an advantage over them. But this is not a ha-ha moment. The guy's life is on the line. It turns out if you give him civil attorneys that have never tried any criminal case, let alone a death penalty case, that's a big problem, right? And it leads to injustices like this. But at least this one guy realizes the mistakes he made and the system made, and he's trying to fix it.
He is. And I think the closing of his letter is very powerful. He says, in 1984, I was 33 years old. I was arrogant, judgmental, narcissistic, and very full of myself. I was not as interested in justice as I was in winning. To borrow a phrase from Al Pacino in the movie And Justice for All, winning became everything.
See, that's really interesting, because that's what we talk about on the show all the time when it comes to these cases. For the prosecutors, there's a lot of great prosecutors, of course, right? And people trying to seek justice. But all too often, what winds up happening is people start worrying about their record, and they get judged based on their win-loss record. So, for a lot of prosecutors, it winds up being, he's right, he's wrong, he's guilty, he's innocent. Who cares? I gotta get the win. I gotta get the win. Because again, it's just as with the politicians, they're concerned about their career, their glory, their vanity, right? Meanwhile, you're doing a job that is incredibly important, that has consequences for this guy could have been killed, and you took away 30 years of his life. It's not about you winning. And he goes on to explain later, too, in that same part of the article, he says, we went out and had a drink. You know, we celebrated, like, ha-ha, we got him. And the jury even sent me a note about, oh, you wear the black glove, like, yeah, way to deliver that justice on that guy. And I remember feeling good about it. Now, he says, looking back on it, what were we doing? We were playing with that guy's life and we're having a beer over it?
Yeah.
So it was really as good an apology as you could possibly see. And he went back to Rosamund, too, the victim. He said, we never got the guy who did it. That's another one of our failings. Something else we talk about on the show. Don't you care about the guy who actually did it? It's injustice all around. So, look, you might think it's too little too late, and obviously this gentleman suffered for so long in prison, but at least it's refreshing for once to see someone saying, yeah, no, it was our fault. For God's sake, let's do something about it and give this guy what he deserves. All right. I think we are out of time. Good stories. You're here tomorrow, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. God bless. We've got more powerful stories for you guys tomorrow. We've got a good post-game story from Anna coming up. And then I'm going to go. Bye-bye.